be having a license established, a license issued by the country, by us actually, by the Ministry of Investment, where it used to take around 3 days, it's now reduced to 3 hours. The license period is being increased. One of the most important, and I think mention-worthy points, is that 100% foreign ownership is possible in the Kingdom now. So international companies can set up their operations in Saudi Arabia without the need of a local partner or any other stakeholder, if that's what they wish to do so. Among the reforms was also, of course, empowering women, which is a core topic for the Kingdom's strategy. So Saudi Arabia was ranked first in regards to gender equality reforms, according to the World Bank's Women, Business and the Law in 2020. We're first in gender equality among the GCC countries and second among the Arab world. The unparalleled greenfield opportunities, which I stressed on the tourism sector, of course, also expand to many other sectors. I'll give a brief overview. So we're looking at the chemicals, tourism, logistics and transportation, of course, being a very important aspect. Healthcare, as I said, is relatively advanced, but that is a point that offers a lot of opportunities as well. And the entertainment sector, real estate, sports, I think there's something for everyone. To get to this, we have, of course, established several platforms for international companies to, one, familiarize themselves with the country and the potentials, and second, of course, have an insight into what opportunities there are in the Kingdom. The easiest first point of access would be the Invest Saudi website, where there's a showcase of opportunities, a showcase of government entities that support, as well as the link to our ministry, the Ministry of Investment, who will identify, support, and build business cases with companies that are interested to add value within the Kingdom. You'll have a lot of facts and figures. There's investor services. All of that is reflected on the Invest Saudi website, as well as on the Ministry of Investment website. And with that, I'd like to hand over to my dear colleague Anwar, who will give you a little bit more insights onto how the Ministry of Investment supports companies and how opportunities can be accessed in the Kingdom. And from my side, I thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Al-Gar'awi. I would like to remind you all that our speakers today will be all available after the session for any further questions you might have. As we continue our Invest in Saudi Arabia session, please join me in welcoming Mr. Anwar Al-Hirz, Senior Advisor, Ministry of Investment, for a presentation on where to start.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for, it's a pleasure to have you here. I will talk, before we're going to start about where to start, we will gonna talk about the services that we provide, whether investors or startups start or expand their business. Our dedicated team, they could give you support on other stages. Before they start, they can give you a consultation or matchmaking or support, providing a tailored incentive. And during startup, our dedicated team, they can help you on obtaining the license and helping you on registering the other government relation. And after the setup, they could help you on overcoming obstacles, and we have one-stop shop business center that physically you can start your business over there, and any advices with the other government sectors. And other service provided for investors, we do workshops. That workshops is being hosted with other government relation to give you a lot of information and details that helps you on doing business in Saudi Arabia. And if you have the investment consultation, our team will be happy to help you on answering any inquiries to help you get started. And like I said, mentioned earlier, that we have a business centers that give you the all business or support that you could wanted in Saudi Arabia. And even we have a contact center, 24 hours. They could answer any questions related on business and provide support investors and relations management. Where to start if you're planning to register in Saudi Arabia? Thanks to Rakan, he covered all of this. And by visiting our website, Invest in Saudi Arabia, pressing Invest Now. We have license, we have lots of, we cover our issues, license types, like services that, like contracting, hospitality, anything related to services, industrial investments, commercial investments, engineering investments, entrepreneur and technical and scientific office. We require 2 documents, just commercial registration and the financial report attested by Saudi Embassy. And we, as we mentioned earlier by Rakan, it could be, you're gonna get approved within 3 hours. And after getting the approval and having the license, you will be registering the rest of government relation, like commercial, tax, social insurance, labor. The whole process takes almost 7 days. The journey is, first you have to start with the license, obtaining the license. After that, you need to reserve a commercial name. And after getting the commercial registration, you can do all the different government sectors to register labor and commercial chamber of commerce and GOSI, social insurance within online. After that, you're gonna have labor office number, file number, and after directly you're gonna issue the general manager visa. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Al-Gar'awi. I would like to remind you, thank you, Mr. Al-Hirth. Our Invest in Saudi Arabia session will continue now with contracting method of localization of industry and knowledge transfer with Mr. Fahad Al-Amoud, Planning and Support Executive Director, Local Content and Government Procurement Authority. Please join me in welcoming him.
Assalamu alaikum. Your Excellencies, dear colleagues, honorable guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon to each and every one of you. First, we would like to thank our Swedish partners as we gather today to strengthen our historical partnership. To give you a background about Local Content and Government Procurement Authority, first, we would like to get a message apart from a message of His Royal Highness, Prince Mohammed bin Salman, when he said, we are determined to reinforce and diversify the capabilities of our economy, turning our key strengths into enabling tools for a fully diversified future. One of those enabling tools will be presented now by Local Content and Government Procurement Authority. To give you a background, LCGBA was established in December 2019, and it is based on the Economical and Development Affairs Council recommendation to support and promote local content within the kingdom. And the vision is to nurturing local potential and capitalizing the national purchasing power for a strong and sustainable economy. And values within the LCGPA is proficiency, collaboration, sustainability, and transparency. Our vision are divided into 3 pillars. The first pillar is the development by supporting the local content in government procurement and private sector. The second pillar in compliance and monitoring by increasing the compliance rate and implementing the regulations. Finally, the empowerment and support by raising the awareness on local content across all elements. Yesterday in Swedish Pavilion, we have heard about local content and everyone talking about local content. It is very important to know what is the definition of the local content. As per government procurement law, the definition of local content is the total spend in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia on Saudi elements within labor, goods, services, assets, and technology. In other words, it is the value added to the GDP as a result of spending on local components such as human resources, product services, and technology. To know how to calculate the local content within the government procurement, we are looking at 4 different elements. The first element is the goods and services. We see what is the spend over this element, the components being used in the goods and services. In the assets, we calculate from the expenditure on the assets that's been used throughout the production or the service. The compensation is the workforce involved in the production goods or offering services, so it is calculated from the Saudi workforce being adding to the production line or adding to the service and part of the non-Saudi workforce. Finally, in the capacity building, so it is calculated from the value expenditure spent on the R&D and the employee training. So this is the way we calculate the local content within the government procurement throughout the tenders. We have said about the enabling tools. So these are 5 key incentives tools within the government procurement. First tool is the mandatory list. It means whatever product or service involved in the mandatory list, it is enforced to all of the government entities to buy from local nationals. Local product price preference. So if we open the proposals and we see the local and non-local, we'll give price preference for the local products and services. Third is the local content minimum threshold. So if we calculate the value, in some of the projects we put a minimum threshold to support the local content. And also in the local content commercial evaluation. So if you want to evaluate the proposals being submitted to the government, it's not only looking at the prices. In some cases, you look at the equation that give more balance to the local content. Finally, which we are talking about now, which is the localization of industry knowledge transfer. It's commonly named offtake agreements. These 5 local content incentives are applied across all government tenders. If we want to talk about the offtake agreements, the localization and knowledge transfer agreements is a new type of contracting method. Now the new government procurement law has introduced multiple contracting methods. One of them is the offtake agreement, and that is committing to the investor for certain quantity for multiple years, in return to localize and transfer the technology to the kingdom. And of course, there are multiple advantages for having the offtake agreement. First, lowering the business risk by having offtake quantity. So many investors are caring about their sales, about their services. So they are looking at 5, 7, 10 years investment or demand. So it is very important to have this kind of agreement, which is going to lowering the risk. Secondly, sustainable investment opportunities throughout long-term contracts, as we said. Third, securing funding. So whenever you have offtake agreement, it will open opportunity for the investors to secure the fund for their investor and for their invests. Fourth, access to the other government incentives. So whenever you have offtake agreement, of course, it will support you, help you in getting into other incentives within the kingdom. If we want to look at the journey of the industrial localization and knowledge transfer agreement or offtake agreement, it starts with identifying the localization opportunity. Then we will have the feasibility study. So we look about the opportunity, how feasible for the government to commit, and how feasible for the investor also to commit to that agreement. It is very important to have the successful factors on both sides. Then it will tender. We negotiate the terms and conditions, the proposal being submitted by the investors. Then, of course, sign the contract with the investor. Follow up with the project implementation, and this is very important element where we continue supporting the investor throughout the journey to make sure that the smoothing activities are ongoing. Finally, follow up with the investor performance during the contract. So if you have a contract for 10 years or 7 years, of course you will keep the following up after even open the factory. These are some examples of the offtake agreements. We have signed the offtake agreements in PPE, productive personal products, which have the duration for 3 up to 5 years. And also we have signed offtake agreement in security seals or security lugs for 3 years. And now we have a tender on the RO membrane, which extend up to 8 years. And it is open for whoever wants to invest. That's it. And we hope you found that attractive and useful for all of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Al-Amoud, and to all of our speakers so far for their valuable insights. For our final presentation in the Invest in Saudi Arabia session, please join me in welcome Mr. Ahmed Al-Badr, Vice President of Industrial Center.
Your Excellency, dear guest, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Today I will give you an overview of the industrial direction in Saudi Arabia. Then we will move to identify the segments that we are targeting within that sector, and closing up with showing some of the investment opportunities in Saudi Arabia. First, on NIDC, we employ our technical expertise and know-how to support the sustainable national industrial development through targeting high-impact industrial sector and coordinating the effort of business development and investor support through partnership with the public entities and the private sector as well. We targeting 10 industrial sector. In each of these sector, we identify priority segments based on both value chain analysis and supply chain analysis to maximize the synergy between different sectors. Based on that, we identified investment opportunities, which we also develop a business case for each of that investment opportunities that you can find it available on Invest Saudi website. And during this presentation, I will give you more details of each of that sectors and what's the market size that we are targeting in each of that sectors. The 10 sectors that we are targeting is as shown in your on the presentation in front of you. Now I will move to showing that each of these sectors, what investments opportunities is available, starting with one of the promising sector in Saudi Arabia is the automotive sector. We believe that we have a large market in Saudi Arabia. We are targeting the GAFTA countries on automotive sector. We believe that, that the growth of the light vehicle growth in GAFTA is around 2.5%. We targeted 5 segments in automotive, starting from the battery industry and light battery electric vehicles. Also, commercial vehicles is one of the segments that we are targeting. There is 5 investment opportunities here. I show them as the names here, but all the details of the business case is available in our website. It's available also in the Invest Saudi. So for more details, it will be really helpful to take a look to the investment business case. The next promising sector is the aerospace sector, and we identify 13 different segments within the aerospace sector. I show you here only the four main categories that has potential in Saudi Arabia. MRO is one of the segments that we are targeting in the next years. We believe that the demand on that sector is driven by the global growth of 4% on that sector. Also, we believe that the global aerospace market will reach 850 billion US dollar. We developed already now 3 business cases for 3 different investment opportunities, starting from the titanium and carbon fibers, UAS, or unmanned aircraft system. All that's also business cases available on the website that has more details about that investment opportunities. The third sector is the building material. And today we was talking about the growth on that sector in Saudi Arabia, driven by the mega projects that you heard about in Saudi Arabia. That need a lot of building materials. We are today moving from the traditional building materials to the smart building materials through the green concrete as one of the products that we are targeting on the next years. It's been driven with a domestic growth rate of 5% CAGR. We are also targeting on that sector the MENA region, which is not far away from us. We identify 18 different targeted segments. Already 4 here we are talking about more categories more than business case. In each of these 4 categories, we have a lot of business case. It's available on our website. I don't want to bother you with that details now, but if you are really interested, you can go to our website and you find all the details you need. Chemical sector is one of our competitive advantage globally. We developed a lot of business cases with the chemical sectors. We targeting 121, yeah, 121, I can see it here, so just make sure that the one is there. We are targeting 121 chemical segments in Saudi Arabia. We believe is chemical sector is the raw material for all other segments. or sectors. We believe that we want to build the synergy between chemical sector and the strength of Saudi Arabian chemical sector with other sectors that we're targeting through our journey next years. The fifth sector that is one of our targeted sector or priority sector is the food and beverage industry. We are targeting 18 segments on that sector. We already developed many business cases. This is a sample of the business cases that's already developed. If you go to the website, you will find more than them. It's driven by the regional growth of 7% CAGR, and it's a really promising market. We believe also that the market, the Saudi market will reach 270 billion Saudi riyal by 2030. On the bottom of the slide, you will find the opportunity size. It's between 34 million US dollar to up to 426 million dollars. It depends on the opportunities themselves. You know, with the opportunities, there is a market size, and we believe that some of the opportunities, it's need more than one investor to fill the gap on the market. Machinery and equipment is one of the promising sectors also in Saudi Arabia. The global growth of that will be between 4 and 10% CAGR. We identify 38 segments under the machinery and equipment, including valves, pumps, new technology, 3D printing that will be used also with the building materials. And here, when I mentioned that we are working to build the synergy between different clusters to benefit of the market size and the demands on the market. Also, we already developed 6 business cases for 6 different products that is available on our website as well. With the machinery equipment, we are targeting MENA market, Saudi market, and the MENA market as well. 7th will be medical services sectors, and we believe that in Saudi Arabia we have a huge demand driven by our colleague with the local content authority. They are working now to secure that demand on the market with the government with an offtake agreement. We are working with them together to promote that investment opportunity to the investors. We believe that the growth on that sector, it's around 4.4 CAGR for the next years. Also, we identified the segments that we want to work with it, and we developed also the business case, as I said, for 4 of the investment opportunities. Next sector will be minerals and materials sectors. It's a huge sector. It has all the raw materials that we need on other sector. We try to make the synergy between mineral and material sector. For example, with the aerospace, we need a different grade of titanium. We started with the mineral sector to identify that need to build the capability in Saudi Arabia. Then we promote the investment opportunities through the mineral and material sector to make sure that we can move on with aerospace value chain, and we can localize the value chain that we are targeting for the next years. Next will be pharma sector, and pharma sector also is a promising sector. We believe that in pharma, it's alone, the growth is about 4.6 CAGR on the next year. In biopharma, it's about 5.4 globally. The MENA market is around 140 billion Saudi riyal. Also, it's also driven by the government spending as well. So we are targeting to have an offtake agreement also with our colleague in local content authority to encourage the investments here and to localize some of the products that we already developed a business case for. The last will be renewable sector. We believe we identify 6 different segments under the renewable sector. We believe that the target will be around 150 to 160 gigawatt for the next years. The regional growth is between 13 and 16 CAGR. And the MENA market size is around 50 billion Saudi riyal. We already identified 2 opportunities now, one related to the wind towers and the other one with the modules. For more information about that opportunities, I will be really happy to, if you have any questions, any clarification, or you need to learn more about that opportunity, I will be more than happy to connect you to the right team. Just email us on that email, contact us on our contact details, and we hopefully start the engagement with you for any of that investment opportunity. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Mr. Al-Badr. Now, I would like you to join me to welcome Mr. Zaid Al-Mas'ad, Chief Business Development Officer of Sulaiman Group.
Assalamu alaikum. Good afternoon. Welcome. My name is Zaid Mas'ad. I look after strategy and growth for the Sulaiman Group. I will share a little bit about our group before the reason I'm speaking here today. Sulaiman Group was founded in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia in 1983. The group operates under 3 segments: omni-channel retail, in logistics and home services, and in circular economy sustainability related operations and investments. Now, the reason I'm speaking here today is what we do every day is an embodiment of a long and successful Saudi-Swedish partnership. Sulaiman Group was IKEA's second ever franchise partner in the world. And that started in Jeddah 1983 when His Excellency Dr. Ghassan Sulaiman opened the first IKEA store in Jeddah, which was around the 500 square meter store. And if you go back to Saudi's urban structure in the 1980s, many people would question actually opening an IKEA store in the kingdom back then. The structures were different than in Europe. People lived in larger houses, in villas, some traditional houses. A Swedish concept was not a straightforward slam dunk to open as a business. However, our founder's vision saw the development and the growth in the Saudi market with more economic growth that led to urban development, increase in houses density. People started moving from classical, bulkier, larger furniture towards more practical furniture with the likes that was sold by IKEA. The 500 square meter store became a 7,000 square meter store, and eventually a 25,000 square meter store. Now, if we move now almost 38, close to 40 years later, Sulaiman Group operates 5 IKEA stores in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and the Kingdom of Bahrain. 4 of them are big box concepts. We employ over 2,000 employees in the 2 countries. The brand is led by 60% operated and led by Saudi leadership and talent. We are big on women empowerment. We grew from 4 women in 2004 to plus 420 in 2021. That's over 20% of our workforce. We are a top 10 employer in the Saudi market. The Jeddah and Riyadh IKEA stores consistently rank top 10 globally in terms of quality and total sales. And now, moving to Vision 2030, we are inspired as participants and believers in the vision, where it propels the economic growth, prosperity, and house ownership for people in the kingdom. We're looking forward to help people furnish their houses with quality product while fulfilling the brand's ethos of providing many people with a better everyday life. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Masad. That was the final presentation for our first session. Thank you once again to all the speakers who will be available afterwards for questions and networking. We will now take a quick 5-minute break and begin the session shortly. Welcome back, Your Excellencies. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now move on to our next session, Smart Cities. Under Vision 2030, the Kingdom is developing a wealth giga projects and applying smart city innovation to its growing urban centers. To kick off, please join me in to welcome Mr. Carlo Negri, International Director of SWECO.
Good afternoon, everyone. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure to be speaking here today on behalf of SWECO. Firstly, just wanted to thank Business Sweden for organising the event, and Marcus and his team for yesterday, so it's much appreciated. And it was really great to be in the Swedish forest yesterday, and today in this really impressive pavilion. So congratulations on the Saudi pavilion. I'm going to talk about smart and let's say maybe more importantly sustainable cities, and kind of like touch on a definition of the smart city and also our approach towards them. So as was touched on yesterday, we're from Sweden, and maybe a company of 17,500, maybe a little, as mostly touched on yesterday, more humble in its size. But we're the Europe's largest leading engineering and architecture consultant. And of all this talk about sustainability yesterday, this is music to our ears, actually. We're driven by the client's needs and the projects we should try to create, but also the 17 sustainability goals. And here you see some of the expertise we have within our company, architecture and engineering, ranging from structurals, energy, water, waste. So a whole range of different experts. So a little bit on smart cities. I think there's many versions of what the smart city might be to many. We talk about digital cities, intelligent cities, symbiocities or symbiotic cities, and then smart cities with this kind of deployment of intelligent urban systems. But I think we look at this as to create the sustainable environments that are inclusive and you know, to enhance the quality of life and quality of life. But the smart technologies and connectivity are the important means in achieving this goal. So there's this sort of evolution, if you like, of a smart cities. Smart City 1.0, the technology-driven version, which is a little bit similar to, say, having the gadget and you know, not really knowing what you might use it for, but actually you must have the sort of gadget, through to 2.0, which is a little bit more city-led, city-enabled, where cities and mayors, for example, are considering this much more for improvement of quality of life. And I think now maybe we're entering into a point where we're looking at this model as very much a citizen co-created version. I mean, following on the theme of the Swedish Pavilion and the co-creation, and it's about sharing cities, actually. So again, which is fantastic about this event, that we're here to sort of share between the two nations and you know, trade, business, ideas. So smart cities falls nicely into that. If you look at the population growth from the UN, that it's targeted that we're going to hit 11 billion people on this planet by the end of the century. So, and this, you know, has not been kind of so far off over the time. But what's interesting, I think, is that 68% of the world's population will live in cities by 2050, according to the UN, obviously. So then we can talk about and think about sustainable or smart sustainable cities, and also communities as an important, you know, highly important aspect. And the definitions of, say, those levels of smartness can vary depending on where you are. And say, for example, here it's about really building the vision and goals, and maybe planning the basics first, getting together with the stakeholders, thinking around the implementation. So there's 2 projects in Africa, in Ethiopia and Kigali, or in Rwanda, Kigali Green City. And then moving on, how to become and create resource efficient and maybe more circular cities to reduce overall environmental impact. So we might be looking at integrated systems, or we should be looking at integrated systems, as opposed to those kind of optimized individual systems where we try to optimize each individual component. Really start to think about how we might, bring those loops together, consider things like building in wood, which is maybe more sustainable means of construction, and how we could reuse that in a more circular way. And therefore, to be able to follow on from this idea or the conversations from yesterday about the co-creation and this process of getting people around the table and taking on the needs and all the points and the challenges from all the stakeholders, whether that be from civil society, government, academic. So it's a collaborative process, actually, which is the key to successful projects, whether that be in planning or transportation or ecological matters. So it's about building in flexibility, actually, in resource flows, looking at all of the aspects in a very much a synergistic way, looking for this integrated approach to try and achieve the environmental, socio-cultural and economic sustainability. So that then leads to us looking at things like water and energy and waste. And here and yesterday there was obviously ABB and Ericsson talking of how we can have those kinds of systems, but how can we develop them so they start to really form a picture that is cyclical and in its fashion. So, the kinds of projects that will be talked about and have been talked about are very large in their scale, often taking many decades for implementation. So if we look at, these kinds of projects and how to sort of future-proof these projects. So future-proofing the resource efficiency and allowing for transformation over a long period of time, how to ensure that in the next decade, the decisions we make today and even the decade after that can continue to be smart and sustainable. So, the sort of tech of today, if you like, it's moving so quickly. It's moving fast and can be out of date. So really, the only sort of thing that is constant is really change in itself, in fact, in many ways. So being adaptable and flexible is really a key aspect. And here you can see the layers of the city, where at the bottom you've got the coloured shapes of, say, a mixed-use city, more sustainable city, with the social space, which should not be forgotten, because that's actually one fundamental. And then transportation, which is connecting everything together and all of the systems that make that function. And then layered on top is that digital infrastructure, one of the sort of almost like the glue, in a sense, that might bind all of this together. And so if we look at that digital infrastructure and how that can also enable innovation as well, and how that can be fit for purpose in the future. For example, vacuum waste systems and how that gets connected to district cooling, electricity. It needs a platform to be integrated all together in the beginning. So we've looked at very large-scale projects in Asia as well, where you're talking much bigger scales as well. Hundreds of square kilometers of how to implement these on a much bigger scale is a challenge, but obviously not impossible. It's planning, and it's about this vision, as I mentioned, and being, the environment, ecological, innovation, smartness, and probably mostly and importantly is the livability of that. And not to forget the spaces in between all of those buildings and the experience of those places are what you remember, in a sense. The tech and the phones you'll always have, and you can always check, but you remember it's like here at this pavilion and this in the expo, the experience is of and designing that experience obviously is key. So, smart planning with a layer of technology and having this kind of data and information that can actually create the value as well. Obviously there's a huge amounts of value in that. We would look at that in detail through our projects and through the planning with the digital tools and the power of sort of this data-driven analytics to look at people movement and sun paths and wind and how we can use digital tools and virtual reality with wind analysis and using this kind of virtual immersive environments to design the buildings to test before they're obviously built, and can lead to savings in money and efficiency, and parametric design for basic view analysis and these kinds of things. And of course, there's talk about BIM and building information modeling and building digital twins to test all of that beforehand and also streamline and be effective in the way that you design buildings, record buildings, make the systems much more efficient. So you can do this on one level in buildings, but equally we can do that on city level as well, where we start to plan all of that into the city and record the data and use that data to keep improving and go through those next decades and being able to sort of transform, if you like. So this digital planning tools or processes is again a circular system where we can use the design, the documentation, prefabrication, as I think we talked about, and how to build that and then as you go forwards afterwards, how to what happens if you need to demolish, or what can you reuse? All of that can be captured in BIM or a SIM. And so if we talk about carbon, for example, and how to reduce carbon in buildings, again, it's about looking at the cycle, looking at the projects over many years, say 60 years, for example. Buildings last for a long time, so we should be able to build them in a very adaptive way, looking at where do the materials come from, the logistics and installation and end of use, end of life and use. So where's the construction carbon? Where is the operational carbon? And then actually that can generate economy. There's a whole economy behind the carbon economy that can be implemented. So not only are we talking about buildings, but also we're talking about that cities and infrastructure and planning, where we will look at the carbon cost relationship, the relationship between saving carbon, but at the same time saving cost. So if we can reduce carbon, potentially we can reduce cost because it's designed into the process at a very early stage of planning, as opposed to thinking about it later on down the line when it's very hard to save the carbon. So if we talk about the solutions, so it's not really only obviously just about the tech and data, important factors, but the creative and holistic solutions, the planning for the future, that digital infrastructure, flexibility, adaptability and synergies, data collection, measurement, sensors, how we can record data, build sensors, for example, into what we're doing, having firm data platforms that can adapt and change and maybe be modular over time, and investing in that as well. So there is a certain, obviously, a level of investment in those kinds of data platforms that is needed to kind of help. So that's a kind of bit of a summary. before I close. The goals of the sort of ecosystems and nature's ecosystem services as an important one. How to deal with waste. We know the construction industry is a highly there's a lot of waste, huge amounts of waste, which we can prevent if it's designed and planned carefully. So we try to minimize the products and reuse as much as possible, and materials that can be recycled, and energy that can be created from that waste, so waste to energy, for example. And then maybe 3 enablers for those long-term goals: the common infrastructures and integration, how to think about those quite carefully, the digital infrastructure, information management, innovation platforms and new technology, collaboration and therefore business forms, which is part of today. But probably we can end just on, most importantly, that this all takes place around people, the environment at the centre, and the basis of the needs of the citizens, because ultimately we're going to be the ones that are in the centre of all of this. So I'll leave it there. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Negri, for this valuable insights. Let's continue our Smart Cities session now by welcoming Mr. Fahad Al-Nasser, Head of Innovation at the Saudi Ministry of Municipal, Rural Affairs and Housing.
Your Excellencies, esteemed audience, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and good evening. Today we will take you through the journey of Ministry of Rural Affairs and Housing in increasing the home ownership, which is a pain across the world, affordability and high quality housing. So from there came the initiative of modern construction at Ministry of Housing. We will be talking about the environment for conducting business in Saudi Arabia overall, and the opportunity that you can benefit from, and the incentive schemes for both investors and real estate developers and technology providers. A favorable environment to conduct business. If we look at some figures in here, we can see that with a population more than 34 million and a 2.5% population growth, and as a foreign direct investment, 866 billion, and as 74,000 GDP per capita. The Kingdom of Saudi Arabia is ranked as one of the largest investment markets in for those who's looking for investment in the Middle East. The country is best organized and equipped to support investors in their business venture. We have here Saudi Arabia diverse economy and integrated infrastructure, which is a very important topic today, since we are talking about smart cities, and smart cities is all about integrated infrastructure. And the skilled workforce and the leading financial sector. There is a lot of programs, national programs generated from the Vision 2030. We have here the privatization program and the housing program, among a lot of programs that any investor can benefit from. Here we look at the figure 3, the economy competitiveness indicator. We look at Saudi Arabia is ranking one of the largest economies in the world as one of them. And if we look at the foreign direct investment, we can noticeable growth, as well as the non-oil GDP is increasing as well to 50% instead of when it first started at 16. Today we will be talking about the housing sector and the opportunities that we can, and how big is the market sector, the housing market sector in Saudi Arabia. In 2016, the home ownership reached 50%, as in 2020, our objective is to increase the home ownership from 50% to 60%, and thankfully we have achieved these numbers. And our new challenge, which I'm very confident we can achieve, increasing the home ownership to 70% by 2030. Investment opportunities curated for you. All of these numbers and the achievement we have done in housing sector, thankfully for using the building technologies. So we have more than 7 building technologies that are approved in Ministry of Housing, and we have built more than 60% of beneficiaries' houses by using building technology. We have the autoclaved aerated concrete, insulated concrete foam, and the insulated precast system, light gauge steel, tunnel formwork, and concrete modular, light gauge steel modular as well. This technology helped us to achieve our goals because it's shorter lead time, higher quality, lower life cycle cost, and less labor intensive. Modern construction will be crucial to allow Saudi Arabia to achieve its housing development plans. And nonetheless, we started with building technologies in housing sector, but we started to explore more with future methods of construction. We are talking here about the Industrial Revolution 4.0. For instance, advanced softwares like BIM and BIMS, advanced material as well, which poses exceptional properties, smart devices, since we are talking about smart cities and smart buildings and smart devices. This is how we envision housing in future. And sustainable energy solution, robotics and advanced prefabricated construction, 3D printing and drones. All of these, most of these applications have been piloted in Saudi Arabia, and we did build the first 3D printed house in Saudi Arabia using a 3D printer. Our aim is to explore in one of the world's most promising technologies. And today we are planning to build a small community by using a 3D printed houses. And all this technology is in our effort to minimize the gap that we have and the conventional ways of building houses, and to have the market adopt these technology naturally and organically. So we are piloting and doing all of this. Here are like a benchmark about different technologies, some of which Al-Falah community in Abu Dhabi, Hong Kong University residents. And here we have some examples as well, different building technology that have been used for housing in Saudi Arabia. And now we're talking about the significant incentives for investors. And what are we looking for? What are we looking for? We are looking for a leading national and international building technology provider who have the willing to establish and expand a local manufacturing facility in the KSA. The benefits and that you can get is direct financing. We do direct financing and matchmaking as well. Some joint ventures, some technology providers, they need the insight on the market, so we can matchmake them with investors and real estate developers as well, and business support when legislation and local supply chain and all of that. Building technology stimulus initiatives is fully committed to enable the localization of building technology manufacturing in KSA, and has all the tools required to achieve the objectives. Favorable financial Invest will be granted to investors, paving the way to their success in the attractive business. Loan covering up to 6 months of working capital. Loan covering up to 75% of capex, and payment of loan in 5 years, and 2 years debit payment waiver. And the incentive schemes that we have for developers, there are significant incentives for developers committed to use modern methods of construction for affordable housing solutions. Matchmaking, and we do matchmake real estate developers. If anyone is interested in taking or constructing houses, we will matchmake him with technology providers, the approved technologies that we've just gone through. Modern construction key benefits. Establishing communication with more than 400 building technology providers worldwide. So we are very familiar with the technology, and we have assessed all the technology that we've gone through according to our nature, our culture, and the competitiveness of the technology. And 70 technologies providers and capability assessment and beyond, and monitor financing for modern construction and providers. Thank you so much for your time, for listening.
Thank you so much, Mr. Al-Nasser. Now, please join me in welcoming Mr. Haytham Al-Kamil, Senior Advisor, Digital Strategy, Roshan, to continue our Smart Cities session.
Good afternoon. Is it working? Great, thank you. Good afternoon, Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I'm very pleased and happy to be with you, part of this successful event. You know, such events are great. The exchange of experiences, the exchange of ideas, getting to know what's happening on the other side of the planet or universe is very essential to all of us. My name is Haytham Kamil. I lead on the digital strategy at Roshan. So if you allow me, I would like to start with a 2-minute video. I assure you it's not going to be boring. It gives you a bit of our story.
لا شك أننا كبشر مأمورين أن نعمر هذه الأرض التي استخلفنا الله فيها.
We are the creators of tomorrow's neighborhoods, building communities and living environments that breathe authenticity while adding new flair to our cities. We provide neighborhoods that celebrate neighborliness, amiability, heritage, and opportunity. We provide homes, amenities, leisure, and businesses all in one. We present a vision of a modern lifestyle, where reverence for the past meets passion for the future in perfect harmony, putting the cities of this kingdom on the global map. We create neighborhoods that meet every need, with an abundance of homes and a variety of spaces to which everyone can belong. We represent the homeland investing in itself, in its capabilities, sectors, and people. We have combined homegrown competence and international experience to create a superior real estate company dedicated to developing communities. We contribute to job creation, economic prosperity, and the realization of our community's vision. We champion strategic partnerships in construction, development, and organization to deliver the very best communities in line with international standards. We are in 9 cities, 4 provinces, across more than 200 million square meters in the kingdom. We are the life of the neighborhood. A beautiful life. A warm life. A secure life. We are Roshan.
All right, so Roshan is owned by PIF. We were established in late 2018, recognized lately as one of the Giga project builder and having a mandate to support the vision of 2030. This is a structure of our board members. We're privileged to have His Royal Highness Prince Mohammed bin Salman as the chairman. We have distinguished and board of members hailing from ministries, financial institutions, and government institutions. Our vision is to be the most trusted company developer in Saudi Arabia, bearing in mind all the sustainability, the intelligence, and the smart communities. Now, smart cities, smart communities is a big word. I hope I'll be able to touch on it later on. Our mandate is very clear. So we provide community living for hundreds of thousands of Saudi Arabian families. We need to increase the Arabian home housing to 70% in 2030. Mainly, we're doing affordable housing as it stands, and our clients would be probably the millennials of the world. We want to transform the Saudi contracting and infrastructure industry. We would like to offer aspirational and rewarding lifestyles and a well-being experience in our communities. And we will support Saudi Arabia's economic growth through partnering with local contractors and service providers across. So as you've heard, we're building in 9 cities, 4 regions, Riyadh, Mecca, Eastern Province, and Asir, on a span of more than 200 million square meters. These are 9 identified verticals for Roshan. So for those among the audience that are really willing kind of to introduce or work with us, these are pillars that we have kind of identified. So sub-developer residential, retail, entertainment, F&B, office space, hospitality, education, healthcare and wellness, public realm, ICT, and digital. Again, going into details about our communities will have mosques, a good span of NPR retail space, police stations, schools, commercial space, and we have the governmental, civil defense, and also gas stations as utilities. We take pride to have 1 million trees in our communities. These are the identified pillars that I spoke about. So if you take a look at each of them, we're looking at office, we're looking at the private schooling, we're looking at healthcare, we're looking at the retail and non-residential and centralized retail. We're looking at the single family and multi-family apartments. Again, we can't establish all that without having the right platforms for digital and smartness. And we are also looking into smart solutions around definitely things like the parking, the kiosks, the digital signage, and what have you. Of course, we can't do that without proper network, having the proper ICT, telecom, and data centers and fiber optics. So Roshan is very much into digital, and we are working very closely with providers and telecoms, laying down the infrastructure so that we have the proper backbone for our smart communities. We are working on a digital platform that will connect all the stakeholders, from the residents to the tenants to the service providers and also the external community and the ecosystem. Marketplace, we see ourselves as providers of a marketplace with all this community and all the numbers of stakeholders. And we definitely are going to have a lot of traffic and footfall. Smart community, yes, we're going to talk about smart meters, we're going to look at it. We're going to install smart agriculture, irrigation systems, smart securities, CCTV cameras, other than the ones provided by the Ministry of Interior. We're going to have the smart lighting solutions, the poles, the geofencing, garbage disposal, wayfinding solutions, also privileged solutions for the underprivileged and the handicapped. Smart homes. Since we're going to address the millennials, millennials are very technology savvy, so they like to have some kind of smart flavor in their houses. And since we're building affordable housing, we don't want to have it something like an overkill. So we're going with an approach of tiered smartness. You're going to have something which is a bronze or a silver or a gold or diamond, which means that you can start by having simply sensors and edge systems or connectors that can control, let's say, your air conditioners as a first tier. Second, you move on to have something that can control your water pump. Moving forward, you can have something that can start your heating system or cooling system from abroad, and then also try to get into your facility management or CAP if you have it and control it. This is briefly my presentation. I'll be more than glad to communicate and socialize later on with you all. These are our channels. If you take note of them, we can be also available on all these channels. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Kamel, for those engaging points. Before you move on to the Smart Cities panel discussion, let's welcome the final presenter of our Saudi Sweden Days, Mr. Giles Hanna, Executive Director, Red Sea Development Company, to the podium.
Good afternoon, Your Excellency, and an absolute pleasure to be here this afternoon in Dubai. Thank you as well, Commissioner General, and also to the Ministry of Investment of Saudi Arabia for inviting me here today. My name is Giles Hanna, and I am the Residential Executive Director for the Red Sea Development Company, and also for Amala. These are two of the luxury giga projects that are currently underway, wholly owned and backed by the Public Investment Fund of Saudi Arabia. What I'm actually going to do today, before we go more into the sort of sustainability side of things, is actually discuss with you really about the super prime residential property market. Essentially, what is it about and how is it resilient in today's climate that we're currently in with the COVID backdrop, but also as we hopefully move forwards from that over the next few years. So first of all, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what is super prime residential. Ultimately, super prime residential is any property that we would class in the region of about 50 million dirhams, so about 51 million SAR, just shy of $14 million. That's the sort of the benchmark around the world. And the reason I want to talk to you about this is that I'm then going to factor in how ultra high net worth buyers actually operate in this market, and then discuss with you the importance of sustainability within that context. So just to give you a bit of background about wealth, because this is something I've had to study a lot over the last sort of 20 years or so in my career. Currently today, 2,755 billionaires around the world approximately. And interestingly, these are people who are captains of industry and are leading the way in technology, in smart cities, and also in sustainability governance around the world. That population of ultra high net worth and billionaires is actually growing literally daily. So every day is around 1 or 2 new billionaires currently being generated. The super prime residential market is heavily backed up by these people who actually go on to purchase luxury homes. So 27% of ultra high net worths see within their investment portfolio real estate as a key property investment for them. Now, interestingly, within that, the sustainability piece really comes into play, because these ultra high net worths are looking for sustainable homes for the latest technologies, and also they're planning forward for next generations of wealth and indeed the environment in which they're going to live. London, as you'll know, is a very key super prime market and recognized around the world as a central place to perhaps hold part of your portfolio. But closely linked to it is New York in terms of the investment criteria. And New York is seeing some considerable growth currently, 15 times higher, in fact, in terms of sales volume for property priced over $5 million in the last year or so. Interestingly, within Saudi Arabia today, this is a market that I'm studying every week, prices over the last year or so have dropped around 17%. And this is particularly for large villas and properties with outside space, and also with properties where you have the ability to work from home. Closely followed by Jeddah, which has seen growth of around 12% in the last 12 months or so. And as you know, currently where we're standing today in Dubai, Dubai has witnessed unprecedented growth over the last 12 months or so, with average prices for villas jumping almost 18%. Who are these people that are buying the properties? Well, at the very top end of this, and why, again, it links into the sustainability piece, is in fact Elon Musk with his company Tesla, currently worth approximately $335 billion US. Interestingly, Tesla as a business is leading the way with new government initiatives and governance in place in terms of sustainability, obviously, and new technology for the electric cars. And you'll notice that within that top 10, some really impressive and interesting technological companies, along with IT, obviously social media platforms, and obviously fashion being really crucial. Now, what do people actually purchase? I have to really understand the market, and I've done a lot of research on this when I'm looking at what people are actually buying, because quite often it's not actually a financial decision when it comes to their property. It's actually, does it tick that sustainability box? Does it have the right technology? Can they work from home? Will it work for their family? But to give you an idea of the sort of levels of wealth that exist out there, what I've got on the slides to show you there, for example, an Airbus A340 private jet, approximate price of that $400 million. Below that on the slide, the Flying Flock super yacht, $4 million per week to charter. I've actually stood on that yacht, not chartering it myself, but I visited it. And interestingly, it is full of smart technology. It is full of regenerative energy initiatives. And in fact, runs also linked to electrical, not just combustible fuels as well. Interestingly, on the other side of the spectrum is the likes of fashion, and even the Hermes Birkin bag up there. I've noticed now that fashion houses are going down a more sustainable route in terms of what type of products that they're actually producing and the materials they use. So ultra-high net worths see these as really important factors in their purchase decision, not only just for residential real estate, but also for luxury goods. In terms of real estate themselves, what are high net worths actually considering when they buy a property? Well, very simply, at the moment, healthcare is key, particularly in the process, in the COVID environment that we're in. Space, and obviously anything that's sort of, I suppose, will contribute towards overall wellness for a buyer and their family. But interestingly, as I mentioned, smart technology is really coming into play. And some of the projects that I'm showing on the screen now, along with some of those residential villas, in fact, feature some incredible smart technology, really interesting in terms of the infrastructure in place, the IT in place, the ability to order, particularly within the branded residence sector, services, and to be able to live easily, but also conveniently and in a green way within your home. In terms of actually performing markets currently, these cities are leading the way, and you can see that Auckland in New Zealand, in fact, has seen unprecedented growth, 17.5%, and in fact, the previous year, a similar figure. New Zealand is really seeing a property boom at the moment, but I expect over time that you will see Saudi Arabia featuring within those top figures with all the incredible projects underway and the new luxury markets that are being produced. In terms of the branded residential sector, this is something that's really important. And interestingly, brands are also promoting sustainability within all of their designs and smart technologies. Currently, today around the world, Dubai is actually the #1 location in terms of the number of branded residences, with just over 100 different residential branded buildings, followed closely by Miami and New York. But interestingly, over the next 10 to 15 years, I think you'll see that Saudi Arabia is in fact within that top 3. And certainly the Red Sea project and Amala is creating some incredible branded residential, which I'll discuss briefly in a moment. But I think the brands are really critical, because when you're looking at these different properties, architecture is super important, interior design, services, facilities. But what the brand does is it maintains it to that standard, and it ensures that these best practices, the sustainability piece, the eco-planning is actually being maintained and kept to. In terms of Saudi today, I think really interesting to look at it in terms of what is actually going on. Currently, within the kingdom, over $3 trillion of development projects planned over the next 10-year period. And underway already today is about $1 trillion of real estate and infrastructure projects. And sustainability is literally at the forefront of all of those developments. That's, to give you an indication, $1 trillion is 12 zeros after the digit. Interestingly, also within Saudi over the next 10 years will be 1.3 million different residential units delivered across all different price levels within the different projects underway. And currently 8 giga projects in motion backed by the Public Investment Fund. The Red Sea project, I'll just briefly touch on, and I think interestingly it is leading the way when it comes to sustainable development. And I think sustainable development requires a 3-dimensional approach that really combines the environment, economic and social considerations. The project itself, 26,000 square kilometers. So to give you an idea, 17 times larger than London, about the same size as Belgium as a country. And I believe over time, Amala will be of a similar scale. At the moment, 10,000 hotel keys underway with some of the world's leading hotel groups and brands, and approximately 2,000 luxury residential units, all of which will be full of smart technology and setting new levels in terms of ensuring the project is delivered in terms of green. We've mentioned earlier green concrete. We have a similar initiative underway, so essentially low carbon concrete within all the materials, sustainable building practices, and we have over 1 million trees at the moment within our Red Sea nursery that are currently growing, ready to be planted within the projects. Interestingly, the project itself is in fact made up of approximately 90 islands, of which we're only going to develop just under 30 of those. So in fact, we will leave 2/3 of this pristine Red Sea environment totally untouched. And in fact, we will be preserving the local marine life and also enhancing that local area. The project itself, as I said, aims to be 100% renewable in terms of renewable energy, and essentially it really is going to be creating new opportunities and, I suppose, new building practices within the kingdom itself. Some of these practices have been seen in other parts of the world, but I think it is a first for what's going on in the kingdom and a real sign of the next things to follow. The project itself has got a really incredible marine life, as I mentioned, some of the largest corals that are preserved, some beautiful island developments which you'll be able to visit both to stay in hotels and in fact to also consider purchasing residential there. The Red Sea Airport due to open at the end of 2023, designed by Foster and Partners. And then some also incredible designs going on, as you can see, the coral bloom there on the bottom left of the slide. But essentially, environmental, social governance, ESG, really important to the project. And interestingly, we've just recently received a 5-star rating for ESG due to our initiatives and also a green star. Smart technology will feature absolutely throughout. So smart signage, smart lighting, smart irrigation, smart security systems, just to name a few, and really setting a new precedent within the kingdom. So, in conclusion, what actually drives all this? Well, to me, there is always a flight for luxury, but technology is super important. Sustainability, obviously, at the core of everything that is being done within these projects. But interestingly, if you look around super prime markets around the world, they remain resilient and robust. Buyers are looking for, obviously, tangible assets. They're looking for lifestyle. They're looking for something they can enjoy. But interestingly, they're looking for best-in-class residential when it comes to technology, sustainability, and smart tech. And ultimately, this is about creating the ecosystem and, in fact, for their future generations, for them to enjoy and to live a sustainable lifestyle. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Hanna. Please take your seat on the panel, and thank you to all of our speakers today. Let us now hear from the Saudi and the Swedish subject matter expertise gathered here to discuss how we enable smart cities. Moderating this exciting discussion is Mr. Fahad Al-Hashim, Real Estate Segment Director, Ministry of Investment. Please welcome back Mr. Giles Hanna, Mr. Fahad Al-Nasser, Mr. Haytham Kamil, and Mr. Carlo Negri. And newly joining us on the panel is Mr. Hans Thornell, Chairman of the Green City Ferries. If you have any question during this presentation, you may scan the QR code on the screen or on the card on the table in front of you to enter your questions for our moderator. I will now leave the floor to our panel.
Thank you very much. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our discussion panel, which I am sure will be quite an exciting topic and of great interest to both the Saudi and the Swedish side. We have I would say a star-studded lineup. I'm pretty sure we are covering the entire spectrum from the technical, the regulatory, an actual solution to reach net or zero carbon emissions. And to link it all together, we also have some destinations for all of these developments to be tracked and to see these achievements in real life. When we discuss smart cities, it's always a vertical. I've had several discussions over the last couple of years about what is a smart city. Everybody tends to touch upon their areas of expertise. When we look at whether it's from a vertical, it starts from a smart home to a smart district to let's say, a smart city. And then you come and dig deeper, whether it's execution, end user products, or everything that goes into the background when it comes to waste management, smart meters, etc. We will hope to capture as much as possible on this very, I would say, large and important topic going into the future. So to start, I would like to introduce Mr. Hans Thornell, the chairman of Green City Ferries. I've looked at your solution, and it's actually quite interesting and one of the most attractive solutions. Now, with the target of net zero carbon emission looming across the world and across governments, there's a strong push for it. How does Green Ferries contribute to these goals in light of the future of mobility that is currently serving as a necessity in any type of urban planning going into the future?
When I started, I looked at sustainability a lot, but that wasn't so interesting for most people by then. It's some years ago. But I found that economy is more interesting. And it seems like economy and sustainability goes hand in hand, at least in our case, because it's cheaper with the emission-free high-speed ferry that we have compared to a traditional high-speed catamaran, which is diesel-driven. So we win in both ends, I would say.
Also touched upon the opportunities currently for you for this type of smart, clean mobility, especially since we've got the Red Sea with us here. How do you see these products? How do you see adaptation of projects, of users in the region specifically for these types of products?
I'm not sure I answer in the right way, but I would say like this, in the smart city, it isn't so smart to carry around with big metal boxes with one person in each. So I would say in many cases and projects that were going on, our vessels compete with cars. Because most cities are situated by water. And the water is free, it's open, And if you have a high-speed commuter, you get into the office much faster than sitting in traffic congestion.
I completely agree. We suffer with that challenge every day. Now, if you allow me to, I would like to ask a question for Carlo. Of course, Carlo is an architect and is also the international director for SWECO. It was a great presentation. You went through a lot of the technical elements. I'm like, every time you mention something, I'm like, all right, this falls in line. I've seen this before. Great job, quite comprehensive. But as you understand, a lot of current cities, a lot of new cities are being built around the world. There's several brownfield initiatives and a lot of, I would say, new futuristic cities. In your point of view, what are the key main challenges for building sustainable and smart cities going into the future? And what's your advice for all these city builders on how can it be done effectively and how it also be sustainable going forward?
Very good question. The challenges, I think, when it comes to implementation are how to kind of find these synergies between all of these things, because there's lots of infrastructure that needs to go into the ground, which typically may be a number of different agencies. So often it's, we've found in many different parts of the world, that for the waste and the energy and the, say, mobility departments and the planning of all of that to come together is one of those challenges. So I think the importance of doing that it can't be underestimated. And it's great that you're here as well, because you know, and to workshop that, to bring everyone together. Certainly when it comes to carbon and buildings, the technicalities of those things and meeting the targets, as you pointed out, also one of the great challenges. So how to really look at the whole life cycle of the buildings, the supply chains of all the materials, where is all that material coming from? Are they net zero, the suppliers? Where's the aluminium coming from? How's that aluminium produced, and so forth? And it goes on and on and on. So bringing all of those, bringing firstly the synergies together, all of the building components, digitizing all of that, I think is where a lot of the challenges would actually lie, in fact. So it's, in a way, the visions, we can do the visions for sure, and there's lots of really fantastic ones. So we're not short of those. I think it's the implementation is definitely going to be the challenges there, for sure.
Well, you left a mountain to climb for the recipient of my next question. Fahad al-Nassar is the head of innovation at the Ministry of Municipal Rural Affairs and Housing. If you allow me, Fahad, I'll give a brief introduction. Now, of course, the MUMRA, as we say as an acronym, looks over different spectrums. It manages or coordinates across all municipalities and city governance across the kingdom itself. So that's where the investment opportunities will lie into, and that's how you can sort of reach out the municipal sector within the ministry itself. Of course, there's the housing element, which I have to commend His Excellency Majd al-Hagel and the entire team on the quick and strong transformation over the last couple of years, from launching several digital solutions, automating a lot of these efforts. And I think a key component was to really change the culture within the kingdom on how people look at modern methods of construction, and how does that these technologies fit in the large-scale projects that the ministry is overseeing and currently executing through several arms under the government and with the private sector. So, can you elaborate what's the approach that you are currently undertaking in the ministry to really promote the use of modern methods of construction, in turn enabling smart cities to go ahead? And what are you looking for in terms of the technology space? What do you anticipate from the future? Very big question, sorry.
Oh, okay. I'll try to answer it as much as I can. Well, I think in Saudi Arabia and housing sector, the consumer, the end user, have reached a level of maturity where they are quite comfortable and convinced that using different technologies are not only going to save us time, sometimes cost as well, and quality, because all these technology and advanced technology, building technologies, comes with a high level of insulation. That means energy efficiency as well. And we have built, as I mentioned earlier, more than 60% of all Ministry of Housing beneficiaries are, their houses are built using building technologies. And that motivates us and gave us an insight. Why not go and tap into advanced and future methods of construction? And from there, we started piloting and experimenting, and very soon we will be building a small community using a 3D printer. Of course, 3D printer is going to use cement, but it is very smart. It only deposits cement as much as you need. So it's less waste, up to maybe 60 or 50%. And the automation as well. The automation when you have a design and you can build your house by clicking a button. It's going to be as simple as that. Still, it's not 100% mature, but it's one of the world's most promising technology. And there's so many technologies that we can tap on, and the discussion can take hours if I'm taking each and every technology.
Well, amazing stuff. And I think to add to your point, I think technology does not mean countering sustainability. Even with concrete, there are also now new greener composites of concrete that does lower capturing of carbon.
Yes.
So one does not really cancel the other. They both complement each other, and the more R&D that goes into it and implementation, I think that we will see a lot of benefit in the sector. Now, Haytham Kamal, of course, who's the Senior Advisor for Digital Strategy and Information at Roshan. Roshan is quite exciting, to be honest, in what it seeks to deliver. I think in the kingdom, there has been a lot of need for a market leader to develop how the residential communities of the future will look like. How we aim to increase the quality of life by ensuring that we build these communities that are smart and sustainable. So far, with your experience with Roshan, I know you have different types of locations with different topographies and different supply chain challenges for each of them. But how is Roshan looking to approach the delivery of smart homes and ensuring with such a large pipeline, it can always commit to bringing, utilizing sustainable products and not be a negative impact on the carbon emission equation the world is trying to struggle with?
Thank you, Fahad. This is a tough question. It's a trillion real question. Now, first of all, Roshan, as I mentioned earlier, the mandate is to be the leader in developing communities. Our mandate is north of 400,000 units within 8 years, ending 2030. So the question is how do we achieve this with the availability of the technology, the partners? So we're very high on partnership. We're very high on the alliance ecosystem. And we believe we cannot do it alone. So we have partnerships with people such as contractors, constructors, designers, consultants, and we're deploying many. We're not sticking to a couple of them. The more the merrier, and we're trying to make sure that that path is covered. With regards to technologies, our esteemed colleagues and Fahad spoke a lot about the modular, about the prefabs, about the new technology, smart building. Now he mentioned the additive layer printing. These we're looking into them seriously and heavily. So we are encouraging, companies that have such experiences to reach out, communicate. Definitely, we're looking into maintaining sustainable and green and the lowest carbon footprint. The team has, we're a big team, so we probably have thousands of man-years of experience, and they're all deploying it in terms of making sure that we reach our goal. Hopefully, we will be delivering by February, units, around 115 units. So Roshan came a bit late to the play, but alhamdulillah, we've been successful. We have delivered, we sold, we made good revenue. I'm not going to disclose the number, but we're on target. Thank you.
Amazing stuff. Now, Giles, we've been quite quiet about the Red Sea project recently. You were the executive director of residential. Now, with a project that takes pride in sustainability and preserving the coral reefs, have you seen it as a challenge to be able to deliver the products that are also attractive to the type of residents you're looking to attract within the projects itself? Also, where do you see the project's contribution to, I would say, the supply chain of sustainable products? And is it possible to really have a villa on an island, interconnected, be a digital nomad in the middle of beautiful corals of the Red Sea? And I'm sure a lot of people are interested to see if that is possible.
Yeah, no, thank you, Fahad. I think, so interestingly, identifying the challenges. I mean, look, this is not a simple location in which to actually develop. And so ultimately, it's been really understanding what is there. So we have, in fact, recruited, I think, north of 50 people now working particularly in the sustainability sector who are experts in really understanding and maintaining the ecosystem. So really understanding what is there currently, how do we live with this, how do we enhance it? And ultimately, that's created opportunities. So we're now working on those opportunities and developing with best practice, really ensuring that everything we're doing is going to really deliver, the ultimate sustainable destination, both for the residential and also for the hotels. In terms of the supply chain piece, I think, look, I mean, that's a huge, huge factor, because many businesses are obviously trying to develop and say that they're going to do something, but then there is the supply chain piece, and can these things really be developed? So interestingly, we've really had to research and look into both local and international expertise to ensure that we have a very efficient supply chain, and also to ensure that the way that, for example, sort of building, developing, creating the modulars for some of our units, that they're being done in the most sustainable way as well, so that when we're getting delivery to these locations, we're not damaging in any way the environment. In terms of, can we actually live there, and is it going to be something that really works? The answer to that, absolutely yes. And we have got some absolutely incredible residential already almost formed and ready, and the technology, the sustainability piece, the services, and in fact just literally the natural sort of elements. So the purity of the Red Sea, the destination itself is I suppose we're lucky there in that we already have a really stunning location in which to develop in. So ultimately, it's ensuring that all the features for all the residents from an architectural standpoint, a design standpoint, and indeed all the mobility, the technology, etc. All of that comes together to deliver the ultimate residential, and I'm pleased to say it's very much on track.
Amazing stuff. Now, we've received a question. I can sort of tell who should answer it, but I will also leave it up to whomever is within the panel who looks to answer it. Patrick asks, cities are in a way also storytellers. Whether it's in London or Jeddah, how do we create memorable and soulful cities? How does the human element play a role? And how can culture work together with technology and architecture, especially in these new projects?
I can start. I'll give it a shot. So, you know, I would always like to redefine smart cities. So the cities are not getting smart. We're delivering smart services. So it is up to humans, the human factor, where you are going to deploy technology, be it in terms of building, be it in terms of smartness, AI, machine language, AR, VR, digital twins, and be able to please and have the stakeholders enjoy a better experience of living, part of their well-being. So I think the smartness depends on the project that you are really looking at. From our perspective, Roshan, we need to make sure that our stakeholders, the residents, the tenants, are enjoying a great life and, you know, exerting minimum effort to achieve what they want in a smart manner. So are we looking into a last mile? Yes. Are we looking into dark gray kitchens, cloud kitchens? Yes. We're looking into all of that. But again, when you decide, it depends on, you know, the target that you are looking at. Our residents will be able to smartly to act on homeowner associations, you know, paying their fees, getting their SPAs done, commuting, getting on a marketplace. So it's not a toggle switch that you turn on, it's a journey. And by, I think solutions mature and you build more of smarter communities, per se.
Yeah. Anybody would like, it's a beautiful piece.
I can add to that.
Please.
So as an architect, I think architecture was mentioned there.
Exactly.
And storytelling, and I think it's all about the storytelling, in fact, and certainly placemaking, for sure, because actually the thing you remember when you go somewhere is the place. And so I think from a kind of, sometimes it's almost about looking back as well, to look forward. So from a sort of cultural perspective, how those kind of things touch you, from a sort of, you know, looking back perspective that makes you feel like now it's going to be modern as well. So find this kind of fusion between the two. And the architecture has the power to sort of do that, I think. So designing that very carefully, not forgetting the spaces in between, the buildings. It could be materials, the quality of the environment, all of those things play into that. So in a way, when the smartness is there, you sort of forget about the smartness. It's just inherently built into it. And actually it's about the place, is what you remember, in a sense.
Yeah. If I may add to that, it's a very interesting piece that we've spent with the Red Sea Development Company a lot of time with our architects to really understand, because what we're looking to do is place, not just for the local, but also for the international community, a new destination. So really putting this destination for the first ever time on the global map. So the facilities, the services, the architecture, the designs, what is actually produced needs to resonate both locally within Saudi and also internationally as well. And actually getting that balance and creating a destination that all nationalities can visit together, can enjoy the lifestyle together, but can also be in a situation where they're witnessing best services, best technology, etc. So the design piece, the architectural piece is critical to get right, as you say, to form that destination.
And as a local, it's somewhere that you want to be proud of as well. So if you're there, you're proud of your place, and you see it on that international scale as well, so people recognize it.
Amazing stuff. Now, if I may add to that, and I know quite a bit about this topic, having covered it within the ministry. Now, in terms of the architecture scene in the kingdom, I think it's booming right now. We have a lot of new fresh graduates that are architects that are working in big firms that have active projects within the kingdom. There is recent developments as well around new urban codes that ensure that cities retain a specific look and feel, but at the same time ensuring that we thoroughly invest in the infrastructure that will enable the growth of these cities, will enable converting these cities to smart and technological hubs. At the same time, from the surface, it will always retain the identity of the city and identity of the residents that will live in it. Now, I think we're out of questions, and to conclude, thank you, gentlemen, of course, for all your insights around the topic. I would like to also see if go around the table, any closing remarks from gentlemen, something you would like to highlight. And I'm sure there are several people waiting to have a quick chat after the panel. Mr. Hans, do you close any remarks?
Yeah, we're talking about smart cities, and in my opinion, it doesn't seem so smart to use cars anymore because they take a lot of space. And that's my conclusion. There must be mobility alternatives.
Micro-mobility is the future, or mobility should be looked at as a whole?
Should be looked at as a whole.
Amazing. Giles?
I think there's some amazing initiatives underway in the kingdom, and you know, it really is incredible what's already been achieved. What I think is going to be crucial to that sustainability piece, though, is actually, in fact, the educational side of it. So ensuring that both local and international visitors understand, you know, what is required to maintain this incredible smart and sustainable destination, because you can build something and there's always that risk that it then just flops as such. And I think educating people in this segment and really so everybody understands this, you'll see, you know, great reward from that.
Carlo?
I can agree with on the education part for sure, and to add to that, making cities safe and healthy is, I think, a key part. It's amazing to see what's going on in Saudi Arabia at the moment, so it's really exciting, and we're very much looking forward to rolling our sleeves up and doing a lot more in Saudi Arabia, and together with our Swedish partners.
Welcome aboard. Fahad?
I'll take it to a smaller scale, a smart home. I think we reached a level of maturity and people are aware now that of course you're going to invest capital in making your home smart, but the efficiency and the sustainable solution that you are investing in going to save you a lot of money in the long time go. So I think smart homes and smart cities are not something like we would dream of or say it's nice to have. It's a necessity, and it's going to happen very soon.
Haytham?
All of the above.
All of the above. Amazing.
No, I believe that, you know, under the leadership in the kingdom, there's a lot of projects that are happening, giga projects. And the wisdom and the smartness is that there's no competition if you look at it. So each is targeting a specific, you know, clientele. Not that there is no kind of challenges and competing at times brings the best out of all.
Thank you, gentlemen, for those remarks. If I may, I think across everything what we've heard today, and even standing here having this session and this beautiful pavilion really showcases the Kingdom's commitment to really developing a smart and sustainable future. Looking at it from the micro level, from each residential units to iconic buildings, landmark projects, all the way across the scale of redeveloping and redefining our major cities, which we have strong ambitions to make them out of the top globally for quality of life, for interconnectivity, etc. With infrastructure, I think the Kingdom is already one of the highest globally in internet penetration. We've invested heavily in infrastructure. We've recently created a national infrastructure fund as well to continue supporting investors to invest in modernizing the kingdom's infrastructure. I would take this opportunity to invite all firms, consultants, engineering, architects, solutions providers. The kingdom is a market that I view, unbiased at all, unmissable. I urge you to come visit. I urge you to come explore these projects across all major cities in the kingdom. We have several of the projects here. We have government entities that will help you matchmake. I hope you take the opportunity to come and visit, and I am sure and 100% confident that you will not be disappointed with what you see. Thank you very much. Apologies for taking over time.
Thank you to our moderator, distinguished panelists, and all of our speakers and guests who have joined us here today at Saudi Sweden Days. We have reached the end of our event today, and now it's time for the closing remarks. Please join me in welcoming His Excellency, Mr. Nicholas Chauvet, Ambassador of Sweden to Saudi Arabia, for his remarks.
Thank you very much. Maybe I should let the panel also come back to. Thank you for a very interesting panel also, by the way. And you just gave me a fantastic idea here, because I was working on some speech and I realized I should do a speech with only one letter, actually, on the letter P. So I was working on for the last 30 minutes here, I was working on a lot of P's. And panel was the one I didn't have in my mind. But I have a lot of other P's for you. The first one is proud. I'm very proud that we are all here. We have managed to pull this off together, and especially with my dear friend Hussein Hanbazasa being in this fantastic pavilion with another P, and in the Swedish pavilion yesterday. Truly remarkable achievements, I would say. Both teams in the Expo, Swedish and Saudi teams. What we have seen here today in the Saudi pavilion is actually stunning, I would say. The presentations, another P there that I didn't plan. But I'm proud of you as participants, that you managed to come here, that you wanted to come here to be with us. I'm proud of the presentations, all of the presenters, and the presentations have been fantastic. We have learned a lot from these 2 days, at least I have. I'm especially proud of all the personal contacts that I have seen developing here in these 2 days. I mean, I've been sitting a little bit from a back, although in the front, and I've heard the buzz like a beehive sometimes, and that's a sign of a good conference. It's a sign of contacts being made, business to business in this case, personal contacts, and I think that is what we wanted to achieve in particular. I am therefore proud of our project implementation, another P. I am convinced that this is also a proof of a true partnership that we should continue. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here. Especially that we have prevailed over pandemic problems and pessimism. And we have managed to gather here, all of us, safely and physically in Dubai. My second set of P's starts with possibilities, because now it's time to use this, what we have achieved here, all the personal contacts, all the knowledge that we have accrued and what we have learned from each other, for possibilities for the future. I'm convinced that there is a very large potential between our two countries to develop business and trade investments further. I have seen during those 2 days something that I, as an ambassador, of course, see every day, that Sweden and Saudi Arabia are two powerhouses of the world. Economic powerhouses of ideas and pioneering, innovation, ambition, vision, and that makes me very proud as well. I am convinced if we want to realize these possibilities, we have to be present. Presence is key, and maybe I'll turn especially to the Swedish part of the audience, saying that if you want to do business in Saudi Arabia, you have to be present. You cannot sit in Sweden, and you cannot sit only in Dubai, for example, although this is a fantastic venue and a fantastic city, a fantastic country, but you also have to come to Saudi Arabia, come and visit, come and establish, set up business in Saudi Arabia. It's all about prioritization. If we want to make this happen, we have to prioritize each other. Sweden has to prioritize doing business with Saudi Arabia. Among all the other nations in the world that we see here in the Expo, there are many, many nations out there. Why should we do business with Saudi Arabia? And why should Saudi Arabia do business with a much smaller Sweden? Well, I think we have heard the evidence, we have heard the answers to those questions in these 2 days. We need pioneers. We have heard from some of the pioneers from the companies here who have been in Saudi Arabia dealing between Sweden and Saudi Arabia for many, many years. We need those pioneers, but we also need to push for newcomers, for other companies. We heard there was a presentation yesterday, for example, about the SMEs, the startups, etc., the new companies. So we need big companies, we need medium-sized companies, we need small companies. There is a premium for first movers. I often hear that in Saudi Arabia. When I talk to ministers, when I talk to agencies, companies, they always say that you have to come early. You cannot wait, because then you will be too late. So there's a premium for first movers, pioneers. But I've also learned in Saudi Arabia and in Sweden, we also need patience, because nothing happens overnight. So we need to have patience and perseverance to make business happen. It takes time, it takes effort. And I think it's very important to move from PowerPoint to production. There is a tendency always that we talk about a lot of presentations, PowerPoints and so on. And that's important, so that we know where we are going. But then it's time to move to production. From plans to projects to profit. And to end, I would say that another thing that I have picked up during those 2 days is that we are also talking a lot about progressive performance. We are talking about future ideas like sustainability, smart cities, innovation. And that makes me very happy. I think Saudi Arabia and Sweden have a fantastic journey to make together to protect the planet. We have talked about sustainability, green solutions, and to protect people. We have talked about, not least the last section here with the smart cities and urban environments, etc. So protecting people, protecting the planet, we can do that together. We have the solutions and the visions. And finally, and especially as ambassador, of course, I take a certain pride in saying that we have to do this together. So those are my final two, I think, 36 P's. Public-private partnership. That's what it's all about. We cannot do it for you as businessmen, of course, from the government, but also the other way is true. So it needs a partnership between the governments, the public, and the private business in order to advance this agenda together. So with these many P's, in lack of anything better to say, I would just like to thank again all who have made this possible from both sides, so many people, and many people have also worked behind the scenes and to make this possible for quite some time. So thank you for all those efforts, and I think we have been very successful in this. The concluding impression is really that this should be, what did Churchill say, is not the end, it's not the beginning of the end, but it's the beginning, no, the other way around. Or was it? It's not the beginning, what is it? Help me. It's not the end of the beginning, maybe, yeah. Let's put it that way. So we've done two days, two quite long days actually, together, and we have learned a lot, but let's see this as a beginning and continue, maybe not in Expo, because Expo will soon come to a close, but there will be many other occasions, and I hope next time in Sweden maybe, because we have the Join Sweden Summit that we talked about yesterday in April, and we have many, many occasions in Saudi Arabia, for example, the Future Investment Initiative in October this year. Thank you very much, and thank you for coming to this event.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Please join me in welcoming the Commissioner General of this Pavilion of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, Mr. Hussein Hambazaza, for his remarks.
So at the beginning of the session, we checked if we wrote any closing remark, and I said yes last night, and he told me I'll come up with something. So I'm glad that those 2 days inspired you on those P's, and definitely it's a partnership. So thank you so much, Your Excellency. Whether it's cultural, educational, or innovative, let me start by saying that World Expo are tailor-made platform for progress. So here is a P. They offer a truly unique ecosystem, an environment with high-tended sense of what can be achieved when countries collaborate, and where endless possibility is actively encouraged. And this is what we have been doing in the past 2 days. Please allow me to express my heartfelt pleasure that a meeting with Sweden was born in the spirit of this collaboration. And I look forward to seeing the result of the Saudi-Sweden days unfold in the months and years to come in this partnership. As Saudi opens to the world, not only in terms of investment and opportunities and potential, but also socially and culturally, which we will experience today in our pavilion, either at the tour or at the cultural show. Our participation in Expo 2020 Dubai and its lasting effect will contribute to our future. And together, we'll take this adventurous journey. On our side, I would like to thank the Ministry of Investment, the Federation of the Saudi Chambers, and the Saudi General Authority for Foreign Trade for their hard work in bringing this together. I would like also to take this opportunity to announce that on February 7th, the KSA Pavilion will also collaborate with the Ministry of Investment and Invest in Saudi that will take place in the Dubai Exhibit Center here within Expo premises. It's a full-day business forum which will introduce the sector that have been discussed even further. We would be honored for you all to attend and to share in your networks. Information on this will be released soon and we'll share it with you as well. As we come to the end of the Saudi-Sweden days, please allow me to once again offer my sincere gratitude to our Swedish partner for hosting us yesterday in this beautiful event, and their hospitality as well. It was a pleasure to visit your pavilion, maybe for the 4th time. Every time I enjoy it even more. I even took my family, and my daughter enjoyed the fact that she donated a tree to be planted in Sweden. So thank you so much for that opportunity. Also, a special thanks to my friend, His Excellency, Mr. Nicholas Trouvé, the ambassador of Sweden to Saudi Arabia, to co-share this event that took place at the Swedish pavilion. And here we discussed that maybe early in 2021, and now we see it coming into reality, and hopefully a few months later or at the end of this year, we celebrate a result of such collaboration. Also, my sincere appreciation to His Excellency, the Commissioner General of the Sweden Pavilion, Mr. Jan Thislif, and the President and CEO of Business Sweden, Mr. Jan Larsson. And thank you all for attending this event. I invite you please to enjoy the cultural show that will take place outside of our pavilion in the open square, and who is interested to experience the journey that our pavilion offers from the past to the present to the ambitious of our Vision 2030 and the result that has been achieved. The team is here to take you on a tour. So thank you so much again, and looking forward to see you in future events. Thank you so much.